Hello, and welcome to episode 115 of Things I've Learned from Barry Harris. And today I thought we would talk about Bud Powell and how much I love him and how much a lot of musicians love him and why. And this is a good example of why. Just a little tiny phrase of his from the bridge of Anthropology. So Anthropology is rhythm changes, so it's I got rhythm changes. So in the bridge does D7 to G7 to C7 to F7. And on C7, on the third beat, Bud Powell plays this. Now that last note is the third of F7, so it goes in perfectly. But listen to how pretty this is. So why do we love Bud Powell so much? Well, look at what he did. He did two simple things and put them together and made a fantastic phrase. He played a chord up from the seventh of the C7. So that's the first thing you have to know. The second thing he did was he came down and he came down to the third, but before he played the third, he put a half step below it. And then he went up a third. So after he got to the top note of the chord, he came down a fourth, but instead of just hitting that note, he did a half step below it. Then he went up a third, and then he came down the scale. So I was thinking to myself, this is so pretty, but yet if I played this, part of the problem would be, first of all, that would be so much prettier than any other phrase I'm going to play that it would completely stand out. Second of all, it's stealing. It's me playing exactly Bud Powell's phrase, which I don't, it's one thing to pay homage to somebody. It's another thing to just steal their phrase outright. Now, I would like to steal that, but I'd like to steal it in a slightly different way, and I'll show you. The first thing that we have to know is, he's telling us we have to know how to play chords. So, okay, here's C7 scale. So we have to know how to play chords. Chords are play a note, skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. A lot of people call those arpeggios, but in Barry's world, we call those chords. So there's the first one. We'll play the second one, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. That's the one he uses. So if we do everything up, we should know it down too. Really pretty. Now the second part of the phrase is, so we'll just do that much. So that is half step below a note, go up a third, and then come down the scale. So that's nice. Pretty. So you have to be able to do that on each degree. But first you have to be able to do thirds with a half step below. That's the first one. Second one. Third one. Fourth. Fifth, sixth, seventh, tonic. And you have to be able to do them down. Also pretty. But in this instance, we have to know a chord up, then go down a fourth, half step below the note, and then go up a third, come down the scale. So I love that sound. So what I like to do, and what Barry taught us, is you take something like that and you say, let me do it on every degree of the scale and see what happens. So if we do it from the tonic, we're going to go up. We're going to go up a chord. Now we have to. The next note should be a fourth down from this note. So we'll say, but instead of just playing the fourth, we have to play a half step before it. That's pretty. I'll put some half steps in. Those are pretty too. Let's do it from the second. That's pretty. Now that time I just did a Barry's chromatic. Since we don't have a half step in between the first two notes, I put one, which would be I jumped up to the tonic. So let's see. Let's do it from the third. That's pretty. From the fourth. Let's see. That's nice. Nice. From the fifth. That's a nice one. That's a pretty one. Listen to the one on the fifth. So That's a really nice one from the fifth. Let's do it. I mean, they're all nice, but the fifth I really like. Now let's do from the sixth. Come down fourth. But before we go to the fourth, we do a half step below. That's a nice one too. That's also a pretty one. Now here's his on the seventh. I love it. I love it. So this is the thing. Most of us can play some of these exercises, but he ran one of those exercises into the next one in such a beautiful way that it shows you that's the difference between, you know, all of us mortals and these masters like Bud and Bird and Barry and that level, is that they'll take something that's part of our language, very simple, but they chain it together with something else and connect it to something else that is just, it makes it sound incredible. And that's what I'm trying to shoot for, and that's what we all should be trying to shoot for. So that's a great idea, though. Chord up, go down a fourth, but then put a half step before the note. A half step. I love it. Now, another thing you could do is say, okay, well, I want to change it slightly. So maybe instead of starting, like he starts on a beat, he starts on the third beat. He says 1, 2. So maybe what you want to do to make it more your own is say, okay, I'm going to start on the and. So I'm going to remove one note. So instead of playing chord up, maybe I'll take out the third note of the chord. So here's the first note, second note, third note, fourth note. I'll take the third note out and I'll start on the and. So maybe I'll say 1, 2, 3. That's also pretty. 1, 2, 3. Maybe I should try that on every one of them. So instead of the first one, we'll leave the third note of the chord out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. That's a pretty one. I love it. From the second. From the third. I love that one. You could hear that one already. Wait. I love that. I love that one. How about the fourth? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. How about from the fifth? I love that one too. I love that sound. That's beautiful. How about from the sixth? Oh, wait. Let's see. Wait. That's a nice one, too. I love it. Next one from the seventh. That's his. So I might play that on this. So instead of playing Bud's, which I love that sound too, but maybe I'll do. So now, but maybe I like it from the fifth. So let's see, from the fifth. Now let's think about this. I came a chord up from the fifth, then put a half step below when I came down the fourth, then went up a third. So I'm going to try to do that from the fifth of each one. So here's D7. And then maybe and from the F7. I'll see. That's a nice one. Even though you wouldn't do them on all of them. But it is nice to look at, see where they would fall on each one. So let's say if we're playing I Got Rhythm. Here's the end. Going towards the bridge. You see how you just implement it and make it into your own thing. So that is my suggestion also for if you want to steal a phrase, and by steal I'm obviously don't mean it specifically, but instead of taking a Bud Powell phrase and just ripping it off where you say, okay, I'm just going to copy this phrase exactly. Do a little work. Say, what if I do this on every degree of the scale? You know, how does it sound? What did it sound like from the fifth? What does it sound like if I start on the and change one note, you know? This is what makes this music so special. And remember, it's these little small things that you build, the small things that build upon the small things that make the big things. There's no big things. There's just small things like this. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson on stealing a Bud Powell phrase. Enjoy practicing. See you next time.